like a big Italian family, big Spanish family.
Yeah.
And her grandmother was kind of the glue that held that all together.
Like a large Italian family, a large Spanish family, bound together by presence and tradition. Her grandmother was the quiet center, the one who held everything in place. Each day, I share another story from Hollywood's golden age, moments that shaped an era still remembered today. If you wish to keep these memories alive with me, you are welcome to subscribe. It costs nothing, yet it carries meaning. Thank you for being here. Now, we begin. Richard Gere built his legacy as one of Hollywood's most graceful leading men. He turned Pretty Woman into a modern fairy tale grounded in elegance and made desire appear effortless. When he stepped onto the screen, there was a calm certainty in his movement, a balance of charm and restraint that held attention without force. Yet at 76, that carefully preserved image softened as Gere revealed a truth he had carried quietly for decades. He spoke of 5 actresses he genuinely fell for, beyond the camera. 5 American icons whose presence felt distant and almost unreachable. Women admired from afar, rarely approached without hesitation. The kind of danger that had nothing to do with the industry and everything to do with genuine feeling. The moment that stayed with him happened during a quiet rehearsal. There were no cameras, no lights, just the two of them seated at a small restaurant table, gently working through their lines. Julia casually reached beneath the table and traced her fingertip across Gere's palm, slow, soft, and deliberate. He later said she did this tiny thing with her fingers, and suddenly it was no longer a scene. It was us. That single touch unsettled him in a way he did not expect. He lost track of where the script ended and where real emotion began. What made it even more striking was that Julia never behaved as if she were doing anything unusual. She leaned in, laughed softly, tapped his arm, and held his gaze just long enough to quiet his thoughts. Crew members quietly spoke about their connection, and one cameraman later admitted he stopped filming because it felt too personal to witness. Gere admired how Julia blended openness with quiet confidence, relying on honest emotion rather than technique. She was not sharp-edged like Sharon Stone or reserved and intense like Diane Lane. Look, Richard Gere remembers the exact moment Sharon Stone entered his world. His entire body reacted before his mind could catch up. There was no small talk, no polite greetings. Sharon simply walked into a crowded room as if she owned it, reached him, and with one slow, deliberate motion, brushed a piece of imaginary lint off his shoulder. Then she smiled, as if selecting him from the entire room, and in that instant, Gere understood things had just taken a turn. Later, he confessed Sharon didn't flirt like other people, she hunted. And he meant it as the highest compliment. That bold, confident energy is what pulled him in deeper. It wasn't just the undeniable spark between Richard and Sharon, it was the way she commanded the set, switching from playful to laser-sharp focus in an instant. One moment she was joking with the crew, and the next she was diving into a scene with such intensity it felt like stepping into a high-stakes showdown. Richard once said Sharon could drop an improvised line that cut straight to the heart of the moment, and if he blinked even once, she would steal the scene without breaking a sweat. There was one rehearsal that stayed with him long after everything else faded. In the middle of a line, Sharon suddenly reached for his wrist and quietly said, "Don't act, react." It wasn't written into the script, it wasn't planned, yet it landed with stunning clarity. In that single moment, Richard later reflected, he learned more about presence than any formal training had ever taught him. Sharon unsettled him both professionally and personally, and that powerful combination made her impossible to forget. Then came Diane Lane, his quiet flame, the one he nearly crossed the line with, because when two performers like Richard Gere and Diane Lane share a scene with that level of closeness, even the director begins to wonder if it is still acting.
Richard never hid why Diane affected him differently than Sharon. She did not push, she did not challenge with intensity. Instead, she drew him in with a gentleness that felt even more disarming. Diane listened in a way that made every word he spoke carry more weight than he intended. Richard froze in that moment. No one had ever used silence on him in that way. That was Diane's signature. She did not rely on technique, she worked from emotional memory. He later said, "Diane makes you act with your truth, not your talent." For someone with Richard's experience, that approach was both compelling and unsettling. She held eye contact just a moment longer than expected, breathed in quiet rhythm with her scene partner, and adjusted her voice to match the emotional pace in front of her. These were small choices, yet precise enough to reach straight through him. They made Richard feel truly seen, in a way he had never anticipated on a film set. There was one take when Diane's voice wavered, completely unplanned and entirely genuine. Richard did not stop the scene. Instead, he reached for her hand, and she allowed that vulnerability to remain between them for several seconds. They were not performing at all. They were simply two people sharing something unguarded and sincere. That kind of connection is what Richard had been searching for throughout his career, and it explains why Diane Lane still holds such a distinct place in his memory. Simply being in her presence felt as though she could see straight through him, and that alone placed her high on his list. The feeling she stirred was never loud or obvious. It was quiet, unsettling, and deeply magnetic, leaving him slightly unsteady each time they shared a scene. Richard's fascination with Michelle Pfeiffer began during a casting meeting in the late 80s. She entered the room, sat across from him, folded her hands, and fixed her attention on him with a focus so precise that he forgot why he was there. 10 long seconds passed. No smile, no polite conversation, just a steady gaze that felt as if it was reading every unspoken thought. Richard later admitted, "Michelle didn't need to say a word. I felt like she had already figured me out." No other actress had ever affected him in that way. On set, her presence felt even more concentrated. Michelle was not someone who rehearsed simply to memorize lines. She rehearsed to remove anything artificial until only honesty remained. Her precision was never showy or dramatic. It was calm, refined, and exacting. When she stepped into a scene, it felt as though she could see directly into him. During one test scene, Richard attempted to improvise an emotional moment, but Michelle did not offer a familiar response. She drew in a quiet breath, allowed a natural tremor into her voice, and softly said, "Don't lie to me. Not here." It wasn't written into the script, yet it struck him more deeply than any gesture ever could. That single line opened something within him. Richard admired her restraint, the way even the smallest change in expression carried meaning. Her quiet stillness drew him closer, not by force, but by presence. He once admitted privately that with Michelle, you do not pursue her appearance, you pursue her depth, and it was that depth that made her impossible to forget. Then there was Sophia Loren, his untouchable dream, the admiration he never outgrew. Richard did not place Sophia on his list because of chemistry or risk or moments that nearly crossed a line. He named her because she awakened something far older within him, a sense of pure awe. The moment she fixed herself in his memory happened long before they ever worked together, during a European awards ceremony in the late 80s. Sophia moved toward him with the effortless Italian grace she carried so naturally. She placed her hand gently against his cheek, warm and unhurried, almost maternal yet quietly intimate, and said, "You look too serious for a man with eyes like that." Richard stood completely still. Years later, he could smile at the memory, but in that moment, he was not a world-known star. He was a nervous young man standing before a legend. What made his admiration lasting was not the touch, but her mastery of the craft. Sophia did not chase emotion or force a scene. She commanded stillness, inviting everyone around her, including Richard, to meet her at a deeper level of honesty. He never forgot it. Richard later said that single line reshaped how he approached vulnerability on screen. Sophia carried a presence he described as gravity, steady, grounded, and impossible to look away from. She made him want to stand taller, work with greater care, and bring more honesty into every scene he entered. And in quieter moments, Richard confessed something even more revealing. "I never desired Sophia the way I desired others. I desired to be worthy of her." And that, more than chemistry or attraction, is why she remained the dream he never quite outgrew. Richard Gere's reflections did more than reopen old Hollywood memories. They revealed the kind of private emotions most actors carry silently for a lifetime. Hearing him speak so openly about these 5 women felt like watching a legend gently pull back the curtain on decades of unspoken admiration and quiet longing. What made these confessions especially striking was how different each connection truly was. Each woman reached him in a distinct way, leaving a mark shaped not by spectacle, but by presence. Julia stirred something raw and immediate, a chemistry that felt almost unsettling in its honesty, setting the tone for a series of connections that followed, each layered, personal, and deeply human. Sharon challenged him with a bold confidence that demanded precision and presence. Diane drew him into a quieter, deeper emotional space he never anticipated. Michelle unsettled him with instincts so refined they seemed to understand him before he spoke. And Sophia made him feel small in the most meaningful way, like a man striving to earn the regard of a legend he had admired since youth. Each woman left a distinct imprint, shaping who Richard became both on-screen and beyond it. What remains most striking is that he never tried to soften the truth of those experiences. He spoke of them with a sincerity few stars are ever willing to reveal. There was no performance in those confessions, only reflection. And so the question lingers, gently, without demand. If these women shaped him so profoundly, did any of them feel something similar in return? And how differently might Hollywood's story have unfolded if even one of those quiet connections had grown into something more? If this story stirred a thought or a memory, you are welcome to share it below. If you enjoy these reflections, consider liking the video and subscribing for more stories like this. See you in the next story.